Well, thousands of people are gathered in central Moscow, protesting the results of Sunday's parliamentary vote. It's estimated at least 15,000 people are taking part right now as we speak. The opposition claims the results of the election were fraudulent. Now let's cross live to our correspondent in central Moscow, RT's Anissa Naoué, to give us the latest here. Anissa, good to see you. You are at the site of the demonstrations. We can see the crowds amassing behind you there. Tell us, what is the scene? What can you tell us? What's going on?
Well, numbers are conflicting. We're hearing, as I'm very bad with numbers, certainly thousands of people here. They go from 15 to 25,000. I just want to give you a closer view of what's happening. You can see a stage has been set up, a rainbow of flags. You have the Solidarity organization, which is not political. You see communist flags, Yabloko, which is a party that didn't get into the Duma. And then you have a group of people, as you see on this bridge here, really kind of standing back and almost seems just watching to wait to see what happens. There are calls for this rally to remain peaceful. We're hearing, and this of course is a sanctioned rally for 30,000 people, we're hearing that an unsanctioned rally people have met at Revolution Square, which was the original place that protesters, organizers tried to get a sanctioned permit for. They didn't get that. People have gathered there. We're hearing that a couple of thousand people are making their way peacefully so far towards this square where the sanctioned meeting is taking place. And like you said, people calling for free and fair elections. According to them, the Duma elections that took place on Sunday weren't carried out in that manner, and that's why they're gathered here today, to make demands that elections are free and fair.
All right, Anissa, as you say, they're making demands that elections be free and fair. Certainly some across the country, reports of some protests in up to 70 cities. As you say, the demands are being voiced, but how has the Kremlin at this point reacted to what people are calling for?
Well, we saw protests as soon as last Monday, directly after it became very clear what the results of this election were going to be, and they happened again on Tuesday. Like I said, a sanctioned protest, and both President Medvedev and Prime Minister Vladimir Putin have supported the idea that people, of course, have a right to come out onto the streets and voice their opinions, voice their demands. They claim that the elections were carried out as freely as they could be. Observers were here. What they did criticize very strongly, especially Prime Minister Vladimir Putin, were statements from outside of Russia that these elections were neither free or fair from Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and that, according to the Russian government, stepped over a line.
Now, Anissa, when it comes to, we understand there are issues here of internal issues with people calling for free and fair elections, but it's not just domestic issues here. There's been proof, as you might tell us, about the West actually meddling in Russia's internal affairs.
There hasn't. It seems there's specific proof that, in fact, the State Department, again, statements coming directly from Hillary Clinton, there is evidence, and it was released by Life News, basically details from emails between Golis, which is a monitoring organization that took part and monitored these elections, and the Department of State, where there's very clear indications. They're available on the Life News site. You can actually go and read them in English, where you have these observers that took part in these elections actually asking how much they would get paid for each and every violation. So anyone can go and actually read those statements from Golis. We did hear that they're going to actually launch legal action against Life News because the emails were obtained illegally, but no denial on their part. So very clear evidence that the statements from Vladimir Putin on the West, sticking their nose a little too far into the country's internal affairs, are being backed up by evidence like this.
Well, Anissa, as you mentioned, not only with the U.S. State Department getting involved here, but certainly as we hear some reports of Western media getting involved, perhaps trying to ruffle some feathers. So what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, if you watch some Western media networks this week, you would get an idea that there was pure chaos on the streets of Moscow. Of course, you and I, anyone who lives in Moscow, knows that was certainly not the case. In fact, it should be said this is the first day that so many people have come out onto the streets. You saw networks like Fox News showing pictures of Athens, where, of course, yes, it was more entertaining. It painted a clearer picture of chaos, but it wasn't Moscow. You had CNN showing archive of previous nationalist ethnic rallies that took place a year ago. They filed a correction, but still this trend of not really showing accurate pictures and giving accurate ideas of what's happening in Russia is a little too much for the Russian government. It backs up, again, their idea that there is is a move. It could be called slight, but there are certainly trends that some people would like to see more chaos than, of course, is actually happening within the country, especially in the capital.
Anissa, just for a moment, let's address the key figures in the opposition movement here in Russia. We understand that one of the key figures actually has very close ties to the International Republican Institute.
Right, you're talking about Boris Nemtsov, who of course has been in Russian politics and is pretty well known in the West for years now. He was the deputy former prime minister. His party tried to register for these Duma elections and did not qualify to actually run in the parliamentary elections. He showed up at the unsanctioned protest at Revolutionary Square, and we understand he's making his way, if not already here. Clearly thousands of people. It's very hard to actually go into the crowd and know who's exactly here. But we can confirm that he is at the protest today. Garry Kasparov, of course, the world-famous chess player, did not come back from New York to join these protests. And more about Nemtsov, really, about those connections to the West. It's not something that he hides. It's a very public fact that he is supported by Washington's National Endowment for Democracy. Whether or not that's fair, that's for other people to adjust, but to judge. But he is here. Kasparov is not here. Another rising star, I think it's fair to call him, is Alexei Navalny. He's a very well-known blogger. His movement, he's not associated with a political party, is anti-corruption, and that's something that you really hear about a lot when he's covered in the West. He's not as popular there as here in Russia, and he was detained on Monday's meeting and will be detained for 15 days. So he is not here today. Certainly, a lot of his supporters are here. Something that you don't hear a lot about Navalny is his actual movements in terms of his nationalist trends in his movements. He's very well known for speeches such as "Russia is for Russians," and that, of course, if you know anything about Russian history or Russian people and the multiculturalism that you see here, can be something dangerous. You can see on YouTube footage of some of his speech, in fact, for yourself from Monday's protests, and a lot of experts have really categorized that as hate speech. But he, again, not here today. It has to be said that a lot of the people that came out to this rally today are not associated with any political party. They're here to show solidarity, not for a party, but for the movement for fair elections, and they have made that very clear.
All right, Anissa and I were there live in central Moscow. Thank you.